What if Finland won the Winter War? The Finnish are very happy people, though they're very nationalistic in the war. In the 1940s, they were really fighting Russia. Russia used to own them like Poland because they got them from the Swedish and the Northern War. But then they got their independence, and then Russia went in some land and invaded Finland, then World War II erupts. Now let's do alternate history. Okay, so we have to look at the Finland-Russian border. So this is the troop lineup, and only St. Petersburg is doing it. And also, Finnish troops were prepared. Also, note, there was no civil war, which means Finland was in a better state after, By the way, in Finland, 73% of people would say yes to joining the army. It was because everyone hated the communists and knew they were a threat. Also, the Civil War losers were communists, but they were kind of beaten down so they wouldn't rebel. They weren't like this, but they were just quieted down. So, everything lowered down for the communists. But now we need to talk about the little communists in the room. Just remember, in 1920, Poland invaded the Soviets. And then the Ukrainian brain said something very smart. Launch a rebellion. Yeah. Oh, it was not going. They were getting obliterated, and there wasn't even a landing in Crimea. It was going so bad. Yeah, the thing only lasted like a week, most likely, and But some men after this was kind of just thinking communism was a bad idea, and they thought the country was in a bad state. So some just stopped thinking about going in the military. So maybe it was communism. Just kidding, there are many loyal men still and women to the communists. And saying the military had a normal number now. Okay, let's just get on with the war and that stuff. So it starts with nothing. And then the Soviet troops launched from St. Petersburg. But the Finnish captured the north with them having troops there. And it's still going well, but the Russians are making gains. And then this happens, by the way. Let me just say this happens. Then all this is happening. And then a major breakthrough happens. Well, a Soviet major breakthrough happens. Okay, I want to talk about a supposed conversation between Winston Churchill and the leader of Finland. Sir, I think we may have to do something with Russia. What is that, sir? We are thinking about a plan to invade Russia. Oh, that is a very tough mission, sir. How would you even do it? We'd launch an attack. After Germany most likely is going to make a move and declare on them too. We'd beat out Germany fast and then launch into the Soviets, and we'll send you much, much aid. Sir, that seems impossible. The Soviets will have so much time to prepare, and they could even beat you because your army will be tired. Yes, but it's what I want to discuss. Now, sir, if we do this, I want it done fast. Sir, I don't think this is a good idea. Fine, I might scrap it, but still, be prepared. Okay, sir. Okay, sorry about that. It was kind of weird, but I just want to put out that the no was the final choice. And it was very disclosed. This means no one really knew about it. But if it was, something could have happened, and the people could have, caused many, maybe alternate history scenarios. But after the meeting, the Soviets kicked the Finnish out from that sea grab. But the Finnish pushed back the Soviets. Then they pushed back them even more. But then the Soviets made an insane offensive. There was a quick counteroffensive by the Finnish, and the war was mainly just grabbing land that was empty or just surprise attacks. But the Finnish were a bit more planned with their attacks, so that's why they were making more gains in this war. Then the German invasion of Poland started. The Russians came and split Poland down the middle. This might not be correct, but then the Finnish saw perfect armed opportunity, so they started advancing. They went fast, capturing much areas. They launched another offensive. They launched more, trying to gain an area. But then the Russians were finally able to send forces back to fighting. This is because the Russians had sent so many forces to Poland to kick them back all the way to communism that the Finnish saw a perfect opportunity because they had planned a lot. So they launched all their troops practically to that one front, and that also left some communism unrest in Russia. Soviet troops immediately started kicking out the Finnish and taking more land near St. Petersburg because they were obviously winning this war until the Finnish made a shocking offense. Then they started encircling St. Petersburg, taking some extra land up north. Their goal was to take St. Petersburg slowly and fast, alarm the communists, and then do a treaty and screw the communists over to kill communism for good. And it'd be the Finnish dream, because they'd be big and have all the good things. So then there was a meeting with Britain and Finland. They discussed, well, what do we do with communism? What's the plan? And the final decision was that they're going to send no aid, because it'd kind of be bad to do that to the Finnish when there's a world war going on. But they'd send no aid, but if it had to be, they'd declare war on the communists. Even the Finnish later agreed to this idea. But then the encirclement started. The encirclement of St. Petersburg by the Finnish. There were many raids of buildings, and there was just attacks of buildings. Many were wounded, and well, it was a bloody battle. Many died. For all time, people goodbye. But it ended with the Finnish winning. The Finnish had captured St. Petersburg. A turning point in the war had just happened for everyone. The Finnish had started making gains once again. They were pushing in after St. Petersburg, and they were doing so much. This was because they were so happy. And they captured a big amount of land. Then they started making naval landings in a weird way. And this is how much land they had by 1940 August. Now, I want us to know, why was the USSR in such a bad state? Well, the morale of soldiers was at a very low. And many military groups were split on what the loss of St. Petersburg would be like. And also, there were many protests like there was in 1905. And civil unrest was almost at 70%. This is incorrect with the charts, but don't worry. The Finnish were making even more gains, going to more territory. Then they killed a territory, which I don't know the name of. And then they made more gains near St. Petersburg. Also, St. Petersburg was even better after this, because they had rebuilt fast. Yeah, but Moscow was having protest after protest, and it was looking bad for the USSR. But the USSR was just not in a well spot. While the Finnish were having a Finnish paradise, living in the Okay. And now I need your attention, because remember how I said the USSR military was going really bad, and yeah, no one was really in there? Well, that is why the USSR got so cooked, because they had a weak military. They had a military a bit stronger than Finland's. And also Finland got the USSR to finally surrender, which meant their plan had finally worked. These are the Finnish before. You can see their territories. I also outlined the others. Then this is them after. You see how big this is? This is the Finnish Empire, you could even say. Also, they united with Estonia because they had good relations and they just wanted it. But why did Finland get this much land? Well, they were going to give it back, but all they wanted to do was just kill communism. They maybe give it back, but they just wanted to kill communism. Because they were 5 steps ahead, like I said. Also, most of the people there said, okay, I'll be with Finland. Even people in St. Petersburg. So, it was finally the Finnish dream. Also, they have a puppet state over here because, well, they don't have a government really. So, yeah, this is the flag I'm giving them. Yay. And then the Germans started invading Russia in World War II. Yeah, it was growing. This was how they went. And then they somehow gained Stalingrad and all that stuff, which was kind of insane. But also remember, the Russians are very weak now. But the Finnish were doing nothing because, you know how they just literally whipped Russia up literally so far? Also, they had very tired men, so there was kind of no purpose. But then this happened. Germany was making too far of advances, and they even captured Moscow. They were blitzing through, even though it was winter time. Because they had actually trained the men for the winter, and they weren't just summer boys. They're somehow trained. So they were literally destroying the USSR pretty fast. So then the USSR surrendered. And then the rebellious group of Germany popped up, freeing everyone. It was horrible. Germany was in shambles after they got nuked and Hitler died. And then the USSR started rebelling. And it was complete chaos in Germany. Europe was being freed, but at what cost? And then it was all normal again. This is the map of Europe. I'm including Finland in blue, but this is the map. We have Russia, which looks really odd, but it's because they broke in half, and one of them is communist, but the other is not. Then we have the Balkans, as you can tell, Yugoslavia split, and then what happened to Romania and Bulgaria? Well, Yugoslavia split, and Then this is Central Europe, and it looks horrible. Germany, hey, I explained, and then Austria practically killed Italy, but yeah, Germany had expanded. That was kind of weird. This is also the alliance map. It's like kind of NATO. But by the way, Hitler was killed in 1946 by an American soldier. And that caused rebellions in the nation to really just fall into smithereens. And Europe at the end of this war is really just in shambles. Also in 1946, a nuke was dropped in Berlin because there's actually a reason. But many cities, like Paris, as you can see, or Warsaw, were left to shreds. And it would take decades, I mean decades, to rebuild all this stuff. And the Cold War didn't even happen because you know the circumstances. But President London, I don't know how to pronounce it, made a plan called the End of Russia. And it was so the northern part of Russia would kill the communists, and Finland would also be there to help kill the communists. And the war started with it all going great. Yeah, then the northerners made a miscalculation and started invading the Finnish somehow. And that was not a good thing. So then the Finnish started invading. And this was like a horrible mistake for the northerners. And this would cost them this much land to lose at the beginning. Because they did this, made a major comeback, made a major counteroffensive. But we're also losing some land to Russia. And then Ukraine joined, invading Russia on the side of the northern, not attacking Finland. But it was just to gain their land back. So Ukraine was getting more because no Russian forces were there. But the Finnish front was going okay. Ukraine was doing very well because no one was there. And then the Free Russian movement started, which was just a revolution in Russia. It was growing to a few areas. And then the Finnish and the northern Russians signed a ceasefire. Yes, they signed a ceasefire with no bullets to be shot. Well, because 10 million lives had been lost in this war in all the countries. It was bad. And now the communists in Russia are also losing because of the Free Russians, which are barely even communist. Maybe. This is what it looked like after the peace treaty of, I don't know. Ukraine was pretty big. That's a pretty nice thing for Ukraine. And they were doing well in this war. Finland and northern Russia were doing pretty well. And communism as a whole was kind of just gone. And the world was a weird place with Europe. And yeah, the world was a weird place. But yeah, bye. Big Ben and kings and queens. Mate, it's the British. Mate, it's the British. Mate, it's the British. Mate, it's the British. Bye, 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 bye. Bye.